Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the APA Live, the All About YEPA show. And we are really fortunate tonight is that we have Amy Gambert, the National Director, joining us for this program. She's going to teach us all about YEPA. Amy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rip, how are you?
I am doing good. You know, it's just still hot and muggy down here in beautiful Florida, but hopefully fall will get here before too much longer.
I'd like it to become fall up here in Michigan as well. 80 degrees is not fall.
We're still in the 90s, kiddo. Good grief. And humidity to match that as well. Amy, to get us started, why don't you tell us a little bit about what YEPA is and just the basics of how it works, and then we can get into some more details as we go.
So YEPA kind of started as a need for a youth program with the APA and the ABA. My understanding, kind of the late 90s, that started as a process, and early 2000s or maybe late 90s, early 2000s is when Doris Robinson kind of took over. And she really created it into the YEPA that we know today. With all its bells and whistles. It's the Youth Exhibition Poultry Association. So we really focus on that belief that the juniors truly are the future of our fancy and our hobby. If we're going to last, we're coming up on the 150th anniversary of the APA alone. And if we're going to be around for another 150 years, how can we educate and promote and support our juniors so that they are still around doing this and doing shows and breeding birds to the standard of perfection in another 150 years. So it's an educational program first and foremost. We don't give out awards for best of breed or best of show in the junior shows. There's a whole separate aspect of that if you're a junior showing an open show and getting points with that, and breed clubs that do that. We do showmanship sanctioning. And kids can earn points within the showmanship sanctioning side of things towards different levels within the ACE program. Now, those two are not synonymous. You don't have to do either one of them. You can be a member of YEPA and utilize all the resources that YEPA has to offer and learn through those, or you can also take full advantage of it and participate in the ACE program, which is more of a research-based record book style level system. You can also compete in showmanship, and the two go hand in hand with each other. They are compatible with each other, but you don't have to do one in order to do the other. So those kids that maybe are never going to be super eager to go talk to a judge and stand in front of people and talk about their bird and do showmanship can still really learn and excel in the ACE program.
Very cool. I have always been a very strong supporter of YEPA. I've judged a lot of showmanship, and it is always such a pleasure to do that because the kids, by and large, are so eager to show the judge what they've learned and what they know. And I can recall one show I was judging it. It was one time up in Knoxville, and this I shouldn't say kid. He was a teenager, but he just kind of went on and on and on and on about Rhode Island Reds, and that was a breed that I raised for 30 years. And I finally said, "I get it." But their knowledge and their involvement is just so special to me. What about what are the benefits of being a YEPA member?
The benefits of being a member to me is probably one of the biggest benefits is that ACE program and the resources that it has you find within the different leveled record books. You're going to be doing research and learning more about your breed, more about other breeds in the standard, more about in-depth body parts, management, breeding and raising, not just the exhibition, taking it to the show portion, but the husbandry, the feed, the nutrition, all of those aspects to raising standard bred poultry, in addition to the exhibition side of it. That's one of the biggest benefits to it. There's also a ton of resources that we have on our website. However, right now our website is, I mean, you can go whether you're a member or not and access a lot of those resources that are on the website. One of the things that I'm hoping to roll out in the next month, it's probably at least a 6-month project, is some members only kind of units, educational units, if you would. Most of those probably being online. I feel like the only silver lining probably that we had to COVID is the uptick in all of us in our technological understanding and use. So utilizing some of those new websites and apps that we've learned to use to make things a little bit easier and a little bit more accessible to the juniors. I'm a special education teacher by trade. That's my day job. So anything that can be a little bit more three-dimensional, I guess, for lack of a better term, a lot more options than just read it and answer questions about it, a little bit more interactive listening options and so on, so that we can reach as many juniors as possible, is something that I'm looking at.
Very cool. I got another question for you, but before we get to that question, I want to remind our viewers that we're going to do a giveaway tonight. We're going to give away a copy of a book by Ralph Sturgeon. Ralph passed away several years back, but he wrote a book called Starting Where You Are with What You Have. And it is one of the very best books for not only folks just getting into breeding poultry, but folks that have been doing it for a while, because he was a master breeder of Plymouth Rock, and just a wealth of knowledge. So to enter for that drawing, all you have to do is type in the comment section #book, #BOOK. It's that simple. Down towards the end of the show, we'll draw and see who the big winner is. So, Amy, are there different levels in Yeppo, and what are they based on?
So the current levels that most people think of when they think of the levels within YEPA are the ACE program levels. There's also the different age groups in showmanship, and they're not exactly the same. There are several main levels to the ACE program. You have the pre-junior, which is also called the Pee-wee level, which would somewhat correlate with the clover bud age group of kids. That is a little bit revamped in terms of the ages. So we're kind of recommending that it's more for like your 6 and under kids. That's kind of a good starting spot for those younger kiddos. And then you have the most common one, the one that I think is the only level that I actually ever did. When YEPA kind of became a big thing, I was already 16 and on my way out of juniors. So my younger sister and younger brother did more levels than I did, but the coop tender is one that we did. And that is, if you're a kid that is in that kind of 7 to 10 age group, or maybe you're not brand new to doing poultry, you've been to a couple of shows, you want that kind of really good first ramp up level, first rung up the ladder for learning, that's a really excellent level for you. It's about, I want to say about 50 pages and in that notebook, and there's a ton of your body parts, internal and external, research different aspects of your breed, basic husbandry, breeding and raising, and then you kind of move up from there. So you also we have coop tender, we have flock tender, you have flock master, poultry master. There's also an additional level in there where if you want to become a showmanship judge, you can do that after age 16. There's an aspect in there of if you're interested in becoming a licensed APA or APA judge in the future, there's a little avenue that you can take when you're older and you've gone through some of the basic levels with that. So right now it's set up where everybody starts kind of with coop tender unless you're younger maybe brand new individual, and then you move up from there. One of the things that we're looking at with that is I've been really fortunate to have a couple ladies that really just jumped right in when I asked and helped me out with this, that are perhaps in a lot of ways, actually not perhaps, they really are, because their kids and grandkids have just been in YEPA, are a little bit more familiar with it than I am, as I only have a 3-year-old, so he's not quite ready to start
Just
the
just
book.
give him a year or two. Just give him a
I know.
year or two.
Oh, he's
You-
already doing showmanship, and he loves taking his chicken around, but he's just not quite ready for that yet. But Mackenzie Hager and Bo Cowell from Kentucky and Michigan, they were state leaders with under Doris, and they were more than willing to kind of jump in and help with things. And one of the things that Kenzie is doing is we want to kind of move into almost like a 3-tiered approach with the 3 of us, where it's the national director, manage memberships, all of that kind of thing. But then Mackenzie kind of takes over the ACE program. We're going to work on kind of editing and updating some of the information in the books. A couple of things in the books are not printing great, things like that just need updating. The files need revamped, and juggling the age groups a little bit so that it's more of a recommended age as opposed to a lot of people view it as more of a hardline age bracket. As an educator, I have a master's in education, and I truly feel that blanket, you can't move on or you can't be in a contest until such and such age. It doesn't really help a lot of kids. The idea that everybody needs a participation ribbon until they're such and such age and they can handle it better. I mean, my 3-year-old knows that there's a winner and not first place winner at 3 years old. So it's more of this is recommended, but each family and each child needs to kind of decide for themselves when their kids are ready. And some of that's going in there with recommended ages. By golly, if I've got a 10-year-old that's blitzed through coop tender and they are ready to rock and roll through all the rest of why hold them back? Let them just
exactly
as much as they can. So it's recommended ages. Obviously, if there's a question or a, hey, can we do this? Reach out. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And if there's, we had a situation with somebody where there was a mix-up and they were 14 and doing the 6-year-old book, and so it was like, okay, well, when you're done with the 6-year-old book, like, here's the next couple books, just go with it, do them at the same time, like, go for it. Things like that we just want to clean up a little bit. And I think with having Kenzie kind of take on the ACE program as that director will help with that. Bo Cowell had already somewhat taken over the showmanship and the show sanctioning side of things. So she's volunteered to take on or continue taking on that role. And I'm going to move over into that with her, getting her the trophy so that shows are sanctioning with her. The show reports are going to her. The trophies are going out from her so that it's not so much multiple hands in the same pots and
spread the wealth around.
Yep, not so much tripping over each other, I think, would be helpful. So that's something that, I mean, I can't do it all. I can't be in all the places and do all the things. So having those 2 ladies and then the state leaders is going to be very helpful to growing the program.
I think one of the most incredible things I've learned so far from listening to you talk is I had no idea, and we hadn't talked about it, that you were in YEPA as a youth member yourself.
Yep.
And look at where you are today. Now you're
full circle.
You're running the show. No, I think that's great. I think it also gives you a perspective, a unique perspective that is going to pay dividends big time for the youth members. Let's talk about rewards for youth members. You touched on that briefly, but what are some of the rewards that members can obtain?
Within the ACE program specifically, I grabbed a couple and I brought them with me today.
Oh, good.
When you complete a book level and it gets reviewed and approved and said you passed your level, we have plaques for the different levels that you'll get, a certificate with your name on it, and then a patch for your coat if you wear a lab coat or your shirt or whatever, or put them wherever you want to do them. The camera is very backwards to which direction
Yeah,
I want to
it's
go with
hard
it.
for me to adjust to that too.
There we go. Okay, there we go. So you have different patches that you get. So you get a patch, you get a plaque, and you get a certificate that you can put in your book. Then, so that's for all those levels. We also have some standard YEPA specific, not the level specific, but just YEPA patches and pins. If kids want them for their coats, those can be ordered. And then the showmanship. So if a show sanctions for showmanship, there's two options with that. They can sanction and just do the showmanship, or they can choose to get trophies, or they can do their own trophies. The trophies will go to the winners regardless of if they're a YEPA member or not. After the fact, once that little show report on showmanship is filled out and turned into us, first and second placers right now that are members will get, there's little pins, and I didn't bring any of them with me, unfortunately, but they're little pins that say showmanship on them, that they can put on their coat. A lot of kids wear them on their coats for showmanship, since that's where they came from, is showmanship wins. So those go to the YEPA members specifically. So those are the rewards there. They also get points for showmanship winnings, and those go into part of the competition aspect of the ACE program. They can use those over there.
You just lightly touched on the fact that some of the kids wear lab coats, and some of those kids come in dressed to the. I've had the young boys come in and they'll have not only their lab coat but a tie on, and that's kind of the way I remember it being at poultry shows years ago. And I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was, but
Same here. I
all,
mean, I showed in a lab coat. I'll be totally honest. I've judged a lot of showmanship, both in the APA, ABA show circuit and at 4-H fairs. You don't have to wear a lab coat. It's definitely really hot to wear a lab coat if you're probably in Florida, especially if you're outside. So there are disadvantages to wearing a lab coat, but it just adds. It's really nice, in my opinion, because you can be running around. Maybe you're a little dirty because you've been prepping birds. You throw that lab coat on, you're good to go. Some places, some shows, they have the kids that have to wear black shoes, black pants. That kind of stuff doesn't tend to matter to most judges. It's in all honesty, I've had kids win showmanship wearing a pair of clean blue jeans, boots, and a button-down plaid shirt. So it doesn't. I think the only thing that I guess maybe I disagree with a little bit on appearance is we're seeing a lot of kids coming in and kind of in shorts or t-shirts and stuff. And I feel like it's kind of that, especially at the APA show level, it's that next level up and put together a little bit more. Ideally, it's kind of like a job interview to me. It's that teaching them how to appropriately dress and follow those expectations, those norms, and talk to adults and help prepare them for those job interviews that may come up in their future. So, lab coats or not, but the kids they love their pins, they love their patches, they like to put them on. And there's some kids you see at shows that do very well at a lot of shows, and their entire lapels are pinned out and all the way down both sleeves and down the front and down the back, and they definitely like to have those aspects to show off their hard work.
And they do a good job of it too.
They do.
Take us through a little bit of some of the resources that YEPA has available to help the youth learn more and to further their education and knowledge of poultry, because you guys have got some incredible resources.
There is a lot of stuff on the website. There is, and I think you had it going along the ticker earlier, the YEPA website. There's showmanship. There's showmanship like handouts, I guess, for lack of a better term, tips on it, breeding, cleaning and prepping your breeds for show. There's some articles that have been put up on specific breeds and varieties, many of which are written by some of the YEPA older youth, as they're going through those ACE programs and doing some of the additional resource, or I'm sorry, not resource, research activities that they have in the program. And then they turn those in and we go, hey, this is really awesome. And you did a really thorough job. Can we use this? Can we add this to the website? So there's a lot of those on different breeds and varieties. Probably my hands down favorite resource. It is something that needs to be ordered, but this helped me years ago. And my husband and I are both in the APA apprentice program and hope to be licensed judges within the next couple years. But these are breed identification flashcards,
Yes.
and they have a silhouette of a breed, wrong direction. But then on the back, it gives you your answer. So that's a single comb leghorn. You turn it around, it gives you what class it's in. If it's into 2 different classes, it gives you those, the ABA classes, kind of a basic description of the breed. And it's an excellent tool to start learning your breeds in terms of that body type and getting out of your
Yes.
head with the colors and the
I've
color descriptions.
I've actually recommended some adults order them and use them themselves when they approach me
Definitely.
about, hey, how do you tell this from that? And I said, well, what you really need to do is get some of those breed cards from Yeppo because they will help you do that.
Yes, they are great. I mean, we use them with our little guy already just for the fun of it. Like, which one do you think this is? And he can tell you it's a modern, and he can tell you it's a goose, and things like that. But definitely, and there's some of them that are a little tricky. I mean, there's a couple that we always get stuck on. Like, is it a leghorn? Is it a Minorca? And you're talking a black and white, or a solid blacked out silhouette image, and so you
Hmm.
really have to kind of zone in on those finer points of back length and body depth and comb size in the picture. And it's not a perfect image, but definitely some of those that are similar in their body type and body styles, it definitely helps to study those. That's like my one favorite resource that's out there from what YEPA offers. The other resources, some of the things that you can purchase on the website, I'm pretty sure you can get those. It's not specific to YEPA's website,
Hmm.
but you can get them. I mean, APA standard, obviously, you get that from the APA, ABA standard as well, and some of those breed books. But this is a YEPA resource that is invaluable to me, for kids that are really and adults, like you said, that are wanting to really deepen their knowledge of the breeds, what class they're in, or body description, body type.
Very good. Tell us a little bit. We've talked primarily about youth members, but you have opportunities for adults to help with Yeppo as well.
You do,
Uh, uh,
definitely.
Tell us about that.
So there is an aspect of YEPA called the state leaders, and Doris kind of warned me when we were getting all the information over that there's a few youth members out there, state leaders, that are still, they're super involved. They're helping. They're really working with it. Then there's some that we're not. As a state leader, which in all reality right now, after I emailed all the emails that I got from Doris for at that point in time, the current state leaders, I gave them a month to respond to the email of, hey, do you want to continue being a resource for kids in this program as a state leader, or not? And I told them if I didn't hear from them by the end of that month, then I would assume the answer was no. So based on the responses that I did get, and I am looking at more kind of regional directors. I don't want to say district directors I should say regional leaders. I want to say district directors because we all get really confused with the APA and the APA and the ABA districts are slightly different, and breed club districts are different, but more kind of regional regional leaders is what will probably come out of that. Karen Johnson says that she has a few of the sets of the cards, and they are definitely a great resource. With the regions, I don't have them solidified yet. And if you're a state leader that's watching, and I got your email, I'm trying to kind of finish up figuring out where to best put people around. I'll be totally honest right now. I have kind of the very smack dab center of the country is, I don't really have a body that is in that area yet. And I don't really have anybody for like the Northeast coast, for like that New York on up. So if you're a parent, or just someone in exhibition poultry world that really has a passion for, promoting standard bred, exhibition poultry, the juniors, promoting YEPA as a whole, being a resource to the kids in those states nearby, and probably looking over ACE program notebooks as needed. We have an application on the website that you can fill out. I have, in all honesty, reached out to a few people in our hobby that I value as people that fit that description, in those two areas where I kind of have a missing chunk. I don't want somebody to have to be in charge of half the country. So that's a little bit much. So I'm thinking, kind of 3-4 states in these little regions is hopefully how it'll end up. But yeah, so that's, I've reached out. I have no shame in admitting that I will handpick people if I don't have anybody that is wanting to do it and reaching out. So, that's the gist of it. It's really not a hard job, in my opinion. Most people that would be a regional leader or a state leader, it's probably things you're already doing. You're already talking up, hey, get involved in these shows, get some better birds that meet the standard. You're already being that resource. It's just kind of putting an official label on it. You don't have to host meetings. You can if you want to. If you want to put on a showmanship clinic or a bird selection clinic, all awesome. That's fantastic, but you don't have to do that. One of the big questions that I get is, what's the difference between YEPA and 4-H? I grew up in 4-H. I did it my whole life. It's an excellent program. But most states and counties, it's not as geared toward, and it's almost kind of a dirty word to talk about like standard bred poultry. So the big difference there is YEPA's not that you can't raise meat chickens or meat turkeys or have mixed breed laying hens. There's nothing wrong with that, but we're more focused on the standard bred poultry, purebred poultry, for lack of a better term, or if that fits your bill better, that exhibition side and furthering that side of the hobby. We also, we're exempt from kind of state rulings on how many meetings you have to have and being part of a club in order to show. You can show at an APA or an ABA show. You don't have to be a member of either of those organizations. You don't have to be a member of YEPA. You don't have to be a member of a breed club. You just take your birds, you enter, and you go. Unlike most county fairs, at least in Michigan and kind of the surrounding states, you have to be a member of a club. Most clubs have meeting requirements. There's a lot of teenagers run into problems with when they start playing sports, how many meetings they're going to make. There's no requirements for that. You don't have to do meetings. If you have a group of kids in your area and you want to, that is fantastic and go for it, but it's definitely not a requirement. If you want to set up a table at a show in your area and be like, hey, this is what YEPA is all about, cool, but you don't have to. It's just more being a body, so that me over here in Michigan, I get a kid from Wyoming that's asking me questions about, hey, who can I contact about this? And I'm going, here's a person in the Wyoming greater area that you can talk to that can help you out with a little bit more in your area resources.
Very good. It's a great way for adults to help the youth members. And if there's some way that you can do that, please get in touch with Amy. I know she's looking for all the help she can get. because it's not only helpful to the youth, it's personally rewarding for the adults as well, and I can vouch for that. Let's talk just a minute about poultry clubs. Let's say they want to apply for a YEPA sanctioned competition. How would they go about doing that?
Right now, you go online, you go to the website. I'm gonna pull it up on my other screen here for just a moment. There's a file on the website, and you can apply one of two ways. There's a $20 sanctioning fee if you want to have Yeppo showmanship at your show. You can also do those other option that's a little bit more, and that includes trophies, and that includes a first and second place trophy for each of the age groups of showmanship. So you either print off and fill out, or save it on your computer, fill it out, and email it or snail mail it to us to sanction. You can pay through PayPal on the website. You can mail a check. I've also created my life revolves around Google and the G Suite. So I created a Google form version, so you can fill it out online on that link that's on there, and it automatically goes, ding, hey, you got somebody that's filled out this Google form on show sanctioning. And I go, cool, I got this show. So there's those two different options. Some shows are really eager to say, cool, that's one thing off our plate. We don't have to order trophies. Other shows like to do different things for their showmanship winners. Like I said before, the physical day of the show awards they go to whoever wins, whether they're a YEPA member or not. It's that after the fact show report where your points come from, and those pins go to the YEPA members only. So those are those two options for the shows. There is a show report that we ask you to fill out after the fact, so that we know who won what, so we can give points accordingly. We worry about if they're a member or not. That's not on you as the show. You just fill out the show report. It's the same as if you're doing an APA or an ABA show report. You just fill out who won, and the people in the organizations, they worry about whether they're members or not. That is also getting turned into a Google form as well. So you can fill out the paper copy and mail it or email it, or you can fill out the Google form version, and it goes right to the emails for me, and it will go to Bo Cowell as soon as it gets finalized. And that's pretty much it. We are in
Easy. Easy peasy.
It really is pretty easy. Currently, there are different versions of the score sheets. They all look the same, but they have some slightly different questions on them that go out, and those are the score sheets that need to be used for a YEPA sanctioned showmanship contest. I will speak really freely that over the years, I've heard from people when I ask people to judge YEPA or judge showmanship at my own show. I'll judge as long as it's not YEPA showmanship. I have some shows that go, well, we don't really like YEPA showmanship. And a couple of the common threads that I hear are judges don't feel like they have enough. They feel too locked into it. This is what we have to ask. And I can't really dig deeper with the kids, that maybe I need to kind of switch around how I'm asking those questions to get information out of the kids. And some of the shows are going, this says I have to keep these age groups with these ages. And so I have one class that's like 30 kids and two other classes with 5 kids, and it doesn't really balance. So one of the things that is I love showmanship. I was a showmanship kid. I was that kid with all the things all over my coat when I was growing up. Showmanship is like, I love showmanship. I love judging showmanship at APA, ABA shows, because unlike most county fairs where all the kids have to do it, you get the kids that want to do it. And it's more fun to be a judge for that when the kids want to do it. So that's kind of my baby, is the showmanship side of it. I am a huge proponent of digging into the standard. So don't misunderstand that I don't agree with, the standard questions that are in there. I just want to go about it a different way. That is, I've sent a draft off to Kenzie and Bo. Those are my kind of two core people right now to look over and get their thoughts on it. But we're hoping to roll out kind of a new version of YEPA Showmanship at the YEPA Nationals at Heart of the Ozarks in Fayetteville, Arkansas on November 6th. That's kind of my deadline, hopefully, to roll out that new version of Showmanship. They'll still be the same general age divisions and titles, but it's going to be that recommended for these age groups. But if you've got, like I said, if you've got 30 kids in one age group and you've got like 5 or 6 in another, and you need to move maybe 5 of the younger kids down and juggle those ages just a hair to make it more balanced, go for it. If you particularly the younger kid age group, right now it's getting participation awards, which is fine. If you want to get participation awards to everybody, cool, but still placing those top couple kids. There are kids that I've watched 6-year-olds go to some shows. Last year, actually, there was a 7-year-old that they were not, or I'm sorry, a 6-year-old, they were not placed at a YEPA sanction event yet. And then over at another show, they were beating 10-year-olds in a 6 to 10-year-old age group. So, and not that every show has to do it exactly the same, but again, with that, if they're a butterfly ready to fly, let them go. Yeah. Don't hold them back. So it's more of that. I mean, hell, if a parent has a 6-year-old and thinks that they would do really well in that next age group up, go ahead and sign them up in that next age group up for showmanship. Ramp up those questions, keep them growing, keep them learning, keep them building, keep that fire going in them. So that's my hope, is that the new version of showmanship will roll out for Heart of the Ozarks. And then probably my goal, and this is not a set in stone, but my goal is that then following that, we already have shows in November and December that are sanctioned. They've already got stuff getting ready to go out to them. So it's not an easy thing to be like, hey, by the way, we're going to switch showmanship in your shows next week. So I don't really want to do that to those shows, but I'm hoping that once we roll this out at Heart of the Ozarks at the APA National and YEPA National in November, that then moving forward, kind of all the shows 2022 onward are using the new version. We're hopeful that in spring, early spring 2022, the new versions of the ACE record books will come out. If somebody's working in an old version, we'll absolutely be, grandfathering that in to make you start over on a new notebook version by any means. But that's kind of those loose deadlines that we have for working through some stuff and just trying to update things, keep things really good resources for the kids and keep things growing.
So what are you going to do in your spare time? I know what spare time, right?
Spare time?
Only kidding.
I know, right?
Couple of more questions and we'll let you go because I know you're a busy lady. And just in case someone has joined us fairly recently on this broadcast and missed the first part of the show when you were talking about that, if an adult has a child, a grandchild, nieces, nephews, whatever, that would like to participate in YEPA, how can they sign them up? How can they get them started?
On the website, the YEPA website, there is, again, with the print version, or there is a Google form version now. You can fill out either one. If you want to do the print version, you can scan it and email it to me, or you can snail mail it with a check or PayPal. Right this moment, I would prefer online payment through PayPal. We're still having, and I started this process in August, the first week of August, and here we are mid-October, and I'm still struggling with the bank in Michigan and the more recent ways of doing things to get everything transferred over. So if you mail me a check made out to YEPA, I I have no way to deposit that. I can mail it back down to Florida to Doris and have her put it in the current account where it's sitting right now. But I feel like that's a lot of risk of things getting lost in the mail
Yeah.
and lost in translation. So preferably doing through the website and the PayPal payment. I get little alerts when that happens. And then that's pretty much it. I am working on a more efficient way to notify people when I do get their memberships. Um, you weren't wrong when you said I was a busy lady. I'm a mom and I'm a wife and we have a farm and I teach all day. And sometimes teaching goes into the evenings when you're teaching special education kids, especially. So I can't, sometimes I'm able to respond to an email off my phone really quickly, but in terms of dealing with like a new member and those emails, what my hope is to do is to go through, like once a week and kind of do whatever's come in during that week and say, hey, here's, welcome. Glad to have you aboard. Here's when your dues will be due again, and so on. I am able to set up, and I've already got those set up for renewals, that it just kind of goes out. It's on a scheduled send so that you'll get a little notification the month that your dues are due. And that's kind of what's going on with that with the membership. And then the only other thing would be our Canadian members. So that's another maybe new aspect that I don't know if you had on your questions, Rip, or not. But
I didn't, but important to cover.
Well, we have currently one YEPA member in Canada, Heather Hayes, which many of us in the APA and exhibition poultry world know in Canada, reached out and we were talking. It's very expensive. Well, it's very expensive to ship in the United States, period. And then it's equally really expensive to ship to Canada. And so I think that may have been part of why we don't have as many Canadian members. And so moving forward, Heather Hayes graciously volunteered to be our Canadian rep and resource for those kids in Canada that may want to join YEPA. And we are working on how to get her as many things digitally that then she can print in Canada instead of shipping. And then if trying to coordinate with anybody that maybe is going into Canada for a show, some of the physical stuff, getting that to them, getting her a supply of plaques and things like that, and pins and patches so that she has those. So moving forward to try and make it a little bit more user-friendly to be a Canadian member and benefit those kids as well. And that's one of the things that is on the list of tasks to tackle moving forward.
Cool. Well, I think that's a golden opportunity to reach out to those youth members in Canada to really benefit them. I've got one more question for you, and to me, it's kind of an important question. As parents or grandparents or whoever of YEPA members, how important is it to become involved with those kids and going through the YEPA program?
It's very important to, even if you don't necessarily know or into what the kid's into, helping them along with that, especially if they're a younger kid and they're going to need help researching different things and filling out some of the things in their notebooks. I'm big on don't do it for them, but if you need help writing, what do you want me to write for you? What do you want to say here? How can we explain this question? Helping them. Maybe they get that ACE notebook in the mail and they go, holy smokes, this thing is massive. How am I going to do this? This is too much. What was I thinking? And, being a parent myself, paring that down, okay, this is in chunks. How can we, what's our game plan? How can we make this, that's to me as a parent, guardian, grandparent, aunt, uncle, whoever is involved in that kid's life, that's kind of our role, is to guide them through those adult things that some of us adults aren't that great at either, of going, here's the end game. How do I get there from here? What's my steps? How do I break it down into manageable tasks so that it's not a huge thing? Monetarily, if you got a kid that really wants to do exhibition poultry, there are costs involved in that. There's the entry fees, there's the gas in the hotel rooms to get there. These kids, I wouldn't be where I am today. I met my husband showing poultry. We now run a show, and now I wouldn't be here if my parents hadn't been willing to say, okay, sure, we can order some what turned out to be really crappy black-tailed buff Japanese from Murray McMurray, along with our laying hens when I was 12, and willing to take us to shows and meet the breeders and go, okay, this is a lot of money for 2 little chickens that might die, but here you go. You want to do this? Let's roll. So without that parental support, that adult support, I can be here as this leader of YEPA. We can have regional leaders, but without that help at home and that support, these kids aren't going anywhere with it.
It's funny you should mention it or phrase it that way, because when I judge YEPA kids, it's very apparent to me the kids that have had help from parents or some adult somewhere along the line, because they get it. It just clicks. It just clicks, and there's you can certainly tell the difference. Who's had that parental involvement and who hasn't. Okay, what I'd like to do, we need to give away a book.
Do we have any questions from anybody that was watching?
We didn't, but let me double check here.
Okay. I don't want to miss any if we had any.
So far, we're golden, no questions. But if you have a quick question, if you'll fire it off to us in the comment, after we do our book giveaway, we'll take your questions, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right, give me just a second here to get this computer drawer thing hooked up and going. I feel like I need some game show music to play during this thing. I don't know. And the winner is, for the Start Where You Are with What You Have breeding book, is Karen Johnston. Karen, congratulations. I think you're going to enjoy that book. And if you will send me a PM with your mailing address, I will get that out to you post haste. Oh, we just had a question pop in from John Olberg. What's the difference between YEPA showmanship and 4-H showmanship?
That is a really loaded question. I will try my hardest to pare it down. In my opinion, there shouldn't be a difference. Knowing your bird, knowing everything about that bird, all the body parts, being able to handle it, turn it all around upside down and sideways without it flipping out on you, caging it. All of those things are what showmanship's about. And then getting outside of your bird and the rest of the birds in your class, the rest of the species that are out there. The older you get, the more time that you've been in it. Different states in showmanship, 4-H, do things differently. I will never forget the first time that I saw someone from California do showmanship, and it's very different than what I grew up with here in the Midwest, walking a chicken with a stick. And I went, huh? What are we doing here? Because I also grew up showing hogs, so showing an animal with a stick, that's large animal land, not poultry land. So things are very different in 4-H. In the Midwest, there is, even in 4-H, there's not one way to do showmanship. Most of us grew up with the examination of your bird, and everybody goes through, and I'm checking the eyes for blindness, and I'm checking the comb for texture, and I'm checking for lice and mites. All of that's cool, but if you can't tell me, I'm checking the eye for blindness, I'm also checking to see if the bird has the right eye color. My bird should have a dark brown eye. I feel like my bird has a little bit too light of eye color. It's more of a yellow color, that up to a 2-point cut per the standard. That's what I'd like to hear. And that's what the difference between, I guess, Yeppa showmanship and the kids that are studying those breed standards more than traditional 4-H showmanship. Once in a great while, and it makes my heart burst when I find a kid at a fair that's in 4-H that does that. But it's not as often unless they are also doing APA shows where they may do Yeppa showmanship. To me, Yeppa showmanship, APA, ABA show, showmanship, whether they think it or not, they're very similar. Our goal is to get the kids to dig deeper into those breeds. To me, the examination is, how do you examine your bird towards its breed standard, not just to rattle it off to me as a showmanship judge. How do you evaluate how does your breed or your bird match up to its breed standard? Knowing all the different body parts, being able to handle it, handling so that you're not in between the judge and the bird, which may seem like kind of a mind-blowing question, but if you show pigs, steers, lambs, you don't get in between the judge and the animal. So if you're showing me your bird's wing, why are you doing it this way? You can turn your bird and show me its wing this way so that I can see what you're doing.
I've had that happen a time or two, and I'm actually trying to look around the kids. Okay, I got it. But
the biggest thing is in showmanship across the board, wherever you're at, no judge judges exactly the same. Every judge, my husband and I, we live together and we judge showmanship very differently. we have totally different questions that we think are more important than others, how we prefer to see kids handle. But at the end of the day, if your bird responds to you well, it's handled safely and effectively. You're courteous, you're respectful to not just the judge, but the other kids in the area. If you're having to do one of the stand in line for 3 hours for showmanship, like been there, done that, you're not dinking around with the kid behind you. You're standing there, you're ready to go. You are able to follow directions. That's a big one. A lot of times when I judge 4-H, the kid just walks up and starts talking and doesn't stop talking until they've said all their things, and then they're clueless when I ask them a question. No offense if you're one of those kids, but
that comes across more as a memorization.
Yes, and that's part of that. It's great. It's a great starting point. You memorize things in a cycle, and it's a great starting point. But you have to go deeper with that. It's very disappointing to me as a judge when I get kids, and a lot of us, we frequent some of the same shows and the same fairs, and whether we're judging at the APA or a fair, and you get some of those kids that maybe you don't know what their name is, but you recognize them from year to year, and you know that this kid's been in it for 6 years. They tell you they've been in it for 6 years, and they still can't get out of that routine. I like to jump around and, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? If you can't do that without being correct, you don't really have everything down pat. You just memorize the routine. So that's the biggest differences, I guess. But ultimately, like I said before, it should be the same. It's everything that you could possibly know about your bird. Be ready to say it and be prepared for anything.
There you go. Be prepared.
Every day,
like a Boy Scout thing, isn't that somewhere?
Yep.
We did get a comment back from Karen Johnston, the winner of our book. Wrong comment. Sorry about that. Heather, I'll get back to you in just a second. But Karen had 2 words for us. Woohoo! So, Karen, I hope you enjoyed the book. Don't forget to send me your mailing address and we'll get that out to you. Heather McDonald wants to know, where can we get the identification cards?
You go to the Youth Education Poultry.org website, and in the store area, you can order those. I think I have plenty right now that I don't need to make more copies yet. I try to do all of my shipping on Tuesdays. That's a day that I can usually get to the post office after school gets out, but before the post office closes. And so currently everything that I have orders for is either delivered already or on its way to people. But it's usually a weekly or every 2 weeks, I go and take a whole bunch of stuff to the post office, just because that's how my life works with teaching too. So you can order them there. You can pay online. We can get those out to you. I did want to touch on one thing with the shows that sanction, because this kind of came up today, and I may end up just drafting a fact sheet for to put on the website for shows. When shows sanction, my currently I have all the trophies, and currently I'm sending those out. That will eventually become something that Bo Cowell takes care of once we can make that little transition to her fully having that role. But right now, the way I'm doing it is, if your show, let's say, is at the end of November, I have you on a list for mid to end of October. I'm going to mail your stuff out. And then you know that your stuff has been received, your sanctioning request has been received, and your things have been mailed when I email you your tracking number. I'm not able to, just do it the next day. My life doesn't work like that, and I apologize if you had those hopes, but that's not how my life works with this. So I have a system, and that's my system that I'm doing right now. So I send out the tracking numbers when I send the trophies. And if you ordered trophies, if you are doing just the showmanship sheets and not the trophies, I'll send you an email back and ask you if you need them printed and sent to you, or if I can email a PDF to you to use, because, as I said before, printing is expensive and shipping is even more expensive. So that's kind of where we're at with those shows. So like I said, I may make a fact sheet up so that people aren't going, well, where's my stuff? Like, I sent this in 2 weeks ago and I haven't gotten the trophies yet. You probably won't get your trophies in 2 weeks unless your show is in 2 weeks and you last minute sanction it. So that's how we're working around. That's how I make this fit into those free times, right, Rip?
Absolutely.
Come up with a system and a schedule that works. So,
Amy, I want to say thank you so much. But before we go, is there anything else you'd like to throw out there, or last minute thoughts, or
just keep
you're good?
encouraging the youth. Society has shifted a little bit, and I know that sometimes it's difficult for young and old and in between to all sometimes get along and be on the same page. But regardless of how society is shifted and maybe expectations have changed, the truth really is, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, is that the youth are the future of our hobby. We're not all going to live forever, and our birds are not going to all live forever. So if we want this hobby to keep going, encourage those juniors in any way that you're able to, and be a resource. And I know that sometimes that's not always easy, but trying our best to foster those kids that, like you said, you get the kid that rattles off all this stuff about Rhode Island Reds because that's what he's doing. And you're like, yep, I get it. But that kid has that spark. So we
Yes,
want to foster those,
certainly does. He was
fan
well
those
sparked.
flames. Yes. We want to fan those flames. Another project of mine within YEPA, and it's not on the top of the list, but it is in the list, is an aspect for how we can encourage those college age kids to come back
Excellent.
as adults
Excellent.
to the
Excellent.
hobby.
Excellent.
College is a difficult time for a lot of our kids, no matter how gangbusters they are about poultry. I sold off a lot of my birds when I was in college, and then I went to get back in, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll be able to get good Japs again, black-tailed buffs, and very, very, very few people had them. So how do we help them navigate that time frame? And I'm not saying everybody just has to babysit their birds for 4 years for them, but how can we give them as much, set them up for as much success as possible, so that if they want to come back after they've graduated college, or if they're not going to college, but they've gotten their adult life set up, how can we help them get through that time span so that we have more people coming back to it as adults that have been in it as juniors?
Excellent. Amy, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and share all about YEPA with our listeners.
No problem.
And down here on the bottom, we've got our banner scrolling again if you need to reach out to them. If you've got youth members, by all means, I encourage you to sign them up for YEPA. If you even remotely think you have an interest in being a leader, reach out to these folks because they need all the help they can get. It is a challenging job, and they do a wonderful, wonderful job. Amy, I think you did a great job tonight, and looking forward to great things to come for YEPA in the future.
Thank you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you joining us tonight for the APA Live, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll have another show coming up in a couple of weeks. So don't miss it. So until next time.